May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.
Amen.
Please be seated, all of you. My friends, we are walking gingerly through some strange times right now. And it's happening fast. Our time is changing every minute. We have new closures, new safety measures, new counts of those suffering from COVID-19. Our lives have changed quickly. How many of us could have predicted on Shrove Tuesday, while we were having pancake supper, that we would be saying morning prayer today by Facebook Live? And while we began investigating plans to stream our worship about a month ago, it was only a backup plan to be sure we had thought through all the possibilities of quarantine and self-isolation. And it was only last week, on Friday afternoon, after Governor Raimondo's press conference, that we determined we would cancel in-person worship and meet virtually, as we are today. And the images we see on TV and on the internet, they can be really frightening. And when we see the numbers of those affected by the virus rising and count the cases inside Rhode Island, it's easy to feel even more anxiety. And as we feel more anxious, other responses can flow from that. We worry about food scarcity. We worry about hand sanitizer scarcity. We even worry about toilet paper scarcity. And we respond sometimes by hoarding supplies or being worried about supplies. We can be critical of how some leaders are handling the crisis. And we can watch some blame each other for the pandemic's origin or even its spread. And we can blame others for traveling or for not traveling or taking the crisis too seriously or not seriously enough. Who caused this global pandemic? Whose fault made it spread? Where did it originate? Who should be blamed for this crisis? These are anxious times. Our lesson from the Gospel of John gives us great insight into these anxious questions. During Jesus' time, politics were also tense. And as anxious as many of us feel now about the economy, about our jobs, about the food supply, about our bills, about our access to medical care, and our ability to pay for it, just think how it might be for the man born blind in Jerusalem in Jesus' time. I've walked for hours at a time in Jerusalem's old city. The streets are windy, narrow, ancient, cobblestoned, and twisty. I walked through the Armenian quarter, through the Jewish quarter, through the Muslim quarter, through the Christian quarter, up on the Temple Mount, where the Dome of the Rock is now, and down deep at the Pool of Siloam, near the ancient city of David, outside the city walls. The streets have sudden ascents, going up high and sharp curves, and they don't follow any grid pattern I've ever been able to figure out. There are steps at odd intervals, and they have these little stone wedges in the corner of the step, about a cart's wheel apart. These are made so that you can wheel carts up and down stairs, or in these modern times, miniature trucks drive up and down stairs in the steepest descents in the old city, winding to the left side, where sometimes they're on the left, and tacking across pedestrian traffic to the right side, just to make it really confusing. These little stone wedges are really handy for getting goods like Jerusalem bagels or piles of sandals or pots to the different shops in the different quarters of the city. Unless you're distracted and not looking down. And even more so if you're blind. Even if you've been blind from birth and have grown up in the city of Jerusalem and know it so very well. These little stone wedges are so many random stumbling blocks that you can trip on and that can send you headlong onto the cobblestones. So remember our lesson from John today. Jesus is walking along and sees a man who is blind from birth. Now, John's gospel doesn't say this, but they were probably up on the Temple Mount. That's where they were in the last chapter of chapter 8 of the Gospel of John. And we have a reason to believe he would be there because that's where Jesus and his disciples would gather to teach and preach. The temple is always also where a man born blind would have been to pray for food, to pray for shelter, to pray for sight. Or, and this is important, the temple is where a man born blind would have gone to make a sin offering. Because in ancient cultures, physical disabilities, like blindness or disease, were believed to be caused by sin. That's where people thought disability came from. It must be someone's fault, and there must be a place to lay blame. When Jesus sees the man born blind, his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him." Then Jesus spat on the ground and made mud out of spit and covenant land. Then Jesus said to him, he spread that mud, that poultice, over the man's eyes. And he said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam." John's gospel helpfully adds in a little parenthetical phrase in English. It didn't have parentheses in the original Greek. John's gospel helpfully adds and explains here that the word Siloam means sent. And that's really important. That's a helpful clue because it tells us something big is going on here. The word sent tells us that where Jesus tells the man to go is important. And we need this clue because the big reveal, the punchline here, is short. And without this clue, we might miss what has really happened. Here are the only words we get. Then he went and washed and came back able to see. That makes it sound so easy. But the man born blind had just walked with mud in his eyes from the highest point in the city down to the pool of Siloam, outside the city walls in the city of David, even in Jesus' time. He's walked through the twisted cobblestone streets with the sharp curves and the steep ascents, with the irregular steps at random intervals, with the little cartwheel wedges designed to trip up anybody who is distracted or even blind, especially when he has his eyes smeared with mud. Even today, with good vision, it's one of the longest and trickiest walks in the old city. So living and walking as Jesus told him to do enables the man born blind to do an amazing new thing. He went and washed and came back able to see. "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him." Who caused this global pandemic? Whose fault made it spread? Where did it originate? Who should be blamed? I certainly don't know. And I don't think it matters, other than as a way to better understand how to help those who are ill and to develop a vaccine to keep it from spreading. But I do know that God's works have been revealed in the world's response to this pandemic. We're learning new ways to be together. Some of us are Zooming, some of us are hanging out on Google, some of us are FaceTiming just as easily as we might have made a phone call a couple of weeks ago. And as we've learned more about how we can stay together and well and virus-free, we're figuring out how to be together by being apart. Lots of things have changed for us in this past week, and the news can be really frightening. And we can certainly stay busy, counting all the things we can't do now or that aren't safe for us. But I don't think that will make us very happy or keep us connected. But when, through our imagination and creativity, we find new ways of being together, God's works are revealed in us. Out on the streets, on the news, and all over the internet, people are doing amazingly kind and good things every day. Who has seen Christmas lights go up in the yards and in the windows to bring a little light and cheer and fun to others? Yo-Yo Ma, celebrated cellist, has posted videos of himself on his Facebook page, playing his cello from his office, using the hashtag Songs of Comfort. Mary Chapin Carpenter is posting a series, Songs from Home, playing her guitar from her kitchen in a homemade video, as she says, co-produced by her golden retriever, Angus, who wanders in and out of the frame. Facebook is covered with online services of Eucharist, morning prayer, evening prayer, Compline, from the very professional and beautiful worshipful services of the National Cathedral with professional equipment and an AV staff, to a single priest with an iPod and a selfie stick, and a toddler clinging to her leg, offering prayers. What we're going through now is really tough, and it's scary. And it's only going to get harder as we're in isolation longer to slow the spread of this virus. And we can keep ourselves occupied by blaming others or worrying about things we can't control. But God shows up when we respond to adversity with innovation and with life-giving choices of patience and kindness. God's work is revealed in us when we push through our fear and connect with each other, when we Zoom, FaceTime, or hang out, or make a call on a good old-fashioned landline. However coronavirus is transmitted, we know that we can't get it by Wi-Fi, data, cellular data, or even an old-fashioned curly-Q landline phone cord. God shows up when we check in with each other to be sure that we have groceries, prescriptions, help in the yard, or just a friend to talk to. All of this is loving, nurturing, mothering activity done by mothers, regardless of their actual age or gender or biological role. And happy Mothering Sunday to all of those of you out there who are mothering in any way and love and serve like that. Who sinned that we are in self-isolation today and for the foreseeable future? No one sinned. Jesus tells us, do something about it. When we use our imagination and our creativity and put aside our anxiety and our fear, we can sing from our balconies to each other across our social distance, like our Italian neighbors are doing. When love and innovation find ways to be together by staying apart, God's work is revealed in us.